Life has a way of testing us. The more we try to control every detail, the heavier it feels. Yet the Buddha taught that it isn't relentless effort that opens the path, but release. When we choose calmness, when we loosen the grip, the universe, or what Buddhism calls the unfolding of causes and conditions, begins to move on our behalf. History has shown this truth in many forms. When George Washington's army crossed the icy Delaware, it wasn't force alone that carried them, it was timing, patience, and trust in the unseen momentum of events. In ancient China, farmers learned not to flood their fields with more water, but to wait for the rhythm of the seasons. Too much control destroys the harvest. Trust allows it to flourish. Astrology echoes the same. When the moon is full, it spills over with energy. But it is the dark, quiet new moon that plants the seeds of beginnings. Stillness is not emptiness, it's potential. Buddhist stories remind us of this too. A monk once told his student, "You don't make the lotus bloom by pulling its petals open. You wait, and let the sun do its work." The same is true of our lives. So take a breath. Imagine placing your hand on your chest. Whisper to yourself, "I am enough. I am calm. I am open." In that moment of release, you're not losing control, you're making space for life to move in harmony with you. The universe responds to vibration, not desperation. When the Buddha taught, the mind is the forerunner of all things, he was pointing to a truth we now see echoed everywhere, from quantum physics to astrology. Your inner state is like a broadcast tower. Every thought, every emotion sends out a signal, and life, like an echo, reflects that frequency right back to you. Think of it this way: if you walk into a room carrying calm, people naturally soften around you. If you walk in with frantic energy, the room tenses. The universe works the same way. Your vibration shapes your reality more than your words or even your actions. Buddhism calls this the law of karma. But it's not punishment, it's resonance. Whatever seeds you water inside will bloom outside. A heart vibrating with trust and peace attracts conditions of trust and peace. A heart vibrating with fear and desperation attracts more obstacles, more reasons to be restless. Astrology offers a mirror to this truth. When Mercury is retrograde, for example, people often panic, "Oh no, communication breakdowns." But the teaching isn't to despair, it's to slow down, to realign your vibration. The planets don't punish us, they reflect the energy we're carrying. If you meet Mercury retrograde with patience and mindfulness, you turn potential chaos into clarity. There's an old Zen story. A student once asked the master, "Why is my life always stormy?" The master handed him a bowl of water and said, "Stir it." The student stirred until the water was cloudy. The master said, "Now see your reflection." The student replied, "I can't, it's too disturbed." The master smiled. "That is your mind. When desperate, it stirs the waters. Let it settle, and you will see clearly again." Even folk wisdom carries this truth. Our grandparents used to say, "Don't chase the butterfly, sit still, and it will land on your shoulder." This is not laziness, it's alignment. You're no longer broadcasting the frequency of lack, but of readiness. So here's your micro practice. Place your hand over your chest. Take a slow, conscious breath. Whisper to yourself, "I am enough. I am calm. I am open." Feel how your heartbeat begins to steady. In that moment, you shift your vibration. You stop sending out signals of scarcity and start resonating with abundance. Remember, the universe doesn't respond to your desperation, it responds to your vibration. And when your vibration is steady, trusting, and open, life begins to meet you halfway. You only block what you try to control. We all have this instinct. The harder we hold on, the safer we feel. But in truth, the tighter the grip, the less life can flow. Buddhism calls this clinging, the attachment that creates suffering. It's like holding sand in your palm. The harder you squeeze, the faster it slips through your fingers. Think of the farmer in an old Buddhist parable. He tried to control every drop of rain, every gust of wind for his crops. He worried, obsessed, and forced. Yet his neighbor simply tended the soil, trusted the seasons, and let nature take its course. At harvest, the farmer's field was withered from overwatering and fear, while his neighbor's was full and abundant. The lesson? You can guide your actions, but you cannot control the river of life itself. Astrology gives us another lens. Saturn, the great teacher, often brings delays and boundaries. People resist. They try to push through, to force outcomes before their time. But Saturn isn't punishing, it's teaching surrender. If you fight Saturn's lessons, you feel stuck. If you accept the boundaries, you gain wisdom and structure. In the same way, when you loosen your grip on outcomes, you stop fighting the current and begin to move with it. There's also a folk story many know. A man once tried to help a butterfly out of its cocoon by pulling the shell apart. He wanted to speed the process. But without the struggle, the butterfly's wings never grew strong enough to fly. His control, born from good intentions, ended up crippling the very creature he wanted to help. So much of life is like that. We believe control equals security. But control often builds walls that block the very blessings we seek. True freedom comes when we act with intention, but release the obsession with how things must unfold. Here's a simple practice. Clench your fist as tightly as you can. Hold it until you feel the tension in your arm, your jaw, your shoulders. Now, slowly open your palm. Feel the relief that comes with release. Notice how your breath deepens naturally. This is the body teaching you, control contracts. Surrender expands. In Buddhist meditation, we practice this through mindful breathing. You don't control the breath, you witness it. Guide it gently, and let it flow. The more you force it, the less natural it feels. The same applies to love, to career, to destiny. When you force, you block. When you allow, you invite. So remember, the hand that grips too tightly cannot receive. But the hand that opens in trust becomes a vessel for grace. For timing, for the quiet miracles already on their way. Silence speaks louder than noise. Noise is everywhere, buzzing phones, endless opinions, the constant chatter of our own mind. But the Buddha reminded us, better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace. Silence isn't emptiness, it is the space where truth finally whispers. Think of a lake. When the surface is stormy, you can't see what lies beneath. But when it grows still, suddenly everything is visible: fish, stones, even your own reflection. Our minds are the same. In silence, wisdom rises. In noise, we only see distortion. Astrology mirrors this lesson. During a new moon, the sky is dark, quiet, almost empty. Yet this is when seeds of intention are most powerful. The darkness is not absence, it's a fertile silence where the unseen begins to grow. Just as farmers plant in still soil, we plant our future in moments of quiet. There's a Zen story. A monk once asked his master, "What is the way to enlightenment?" The master simply sat in silence. Minutes passed, no words spoken. The student grew restless. But then, suddenly, he felt it. Enlightenment wasn't in the master's answer, but in the silence that revealed his own mind. Even folk wisdom carries this truth. Think of the grandmother who says nothing when her children argue, only rocking slowly in her chair. Her silence calms the room more than any shouted words could. Sometimes the most powerful presence is one that doesn't compete for attention. Here's a simple practice. Try box breathing. Inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. Hold again for 4. Do this for 4 cycles. As you breathe, notice how the mind slows. The noise softens. In that pause, notice what surfaces: an insight, a release, maybe just a sense of peace. That's silence speaking. Astrologers say when Mercury moves direct after retrograde, communication clears, misunderstandings dissolve. But isn't that the same as our inner life? When we let the waves of thought settle, suddenly the right words, the right direction, the right timing become clear. Silence isn't weakness or avoidance. It is choosing not to add to chaos. It is trusting that truth doesn't need to shout. In silence, we begin to hear the subtle cues of the universe, nudges, synchronicities, whispers of intuition that guide us better than any noise ever could. So remember, when the world feels overwhelming, the most radical act is not to shout louder, but to grow still, because silence, when embraced, becomes the language of wisdom, and the universe speaks it fluently. Trusting timing. In Buddhism, patience isn't passive, it's a kind of power. The Buddha compared human life to the growth of a lotus. No matter how much you want it to bloom, it opens only when the morning sun is ready. Push it too soon, and you destroy its petals. Wait, and you witness beauty unfold on its own. Astrology tells a similar story. Saturn, the great teacher, rules time and discipline. People often resist its slow lessons, wishing success would come overnight. But Saturn reminds us, anything lasting, whether love, career, or wisdom, ripens only through seasons of effort and delay. Think of it like wine aging in a barrel. The years Saturn demands are not wasted, they're shaping the depth of the final taste. There's a Zen parable of a student who begged his master, "How long until I find enlightenment?" The master replied, 10 years. Impatient, the student said, "But if I work twice as hard?" The master smiled. "Then 20 years. Why? Because rushing blinds us. Patience reveals what hurry hides." Even folk wisdom knows this. A watched pot never boils. When you stare and stir, time drags. But the moment you step away, the water bubbles. Life works the same. Outcomes seem delayed when you obsess, but they arrive naturally when you trust the process. Here's a practice. Take a few minutes to write down a moment when waiting blessed you. Maybe it was a delayed job offer that opened a better one. Maybe a heartbreak that cleared space for true love. Let the memory remind you, timing isn't punishment, it's orchestration. Astrologers often point to Jupiter's cycles, bringing expansion every 12 years. If you plant seeds now, Jupiter may not bless them until the right return. But when that alignment comes, doors open you never could have forced. The skies don't rush, and yet the planets are always on time. So is your life. Trusting timing doesn't mean doing nothing. It means tending your soil with faith, knowing the rain will come. It means holding steady through the pauses, aware that delay is not denial, it's preparation. When the moment is right, the bloom will be effortless. You attract what you believe you deserve. One of the Buddha's most radical teachings was this: you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. When we truly believe this, our energy shifts. The universe, like a mirror, reflects that belief back to us. Think of Venus in astrology. Venus rules love, beauty, and self-worth. When Venus is strong in your chart, you naturally attract relationships and opportunities that honor your value. But when Venus is challenged, you may settle for less, jobs that underpay, people who undervalue, situations that echo your own doubts. It isn't punishment, it's resonance. The sky reflects the vibration you hold inside. There's a Buddhist parable of a monk who always sat at the back of the assembly, believing he wasn't worthy of the master's attention. One day, the master called him forward, saying, "The only barrier between you and the front row is the story you tell yourself." In that moment, the monk realized he had been blocking his own path, not the universe. Even folk wisdom speaks the same. A farmer who believes his land is barren won't plant seeds, and so nothing grows. But the farmer who trusts in the soil will see harvests where others see emptiness. Belief is the gateway. Here's a practice. Stand in front of a mirror. Look into your own eyes. Say out loud, "I am worthy of peace, of love, of opportunities aligned with my highest good." Notice how awkward it may feel at first. But with repetition, the words sink in. You begin to embody the vibration of someone who truly deserves what they desire. Astrologers remind us that Jupiter, the planet of expansion, brings blessings when we're ready to receive them. But readiness is not about chasing. It's about believing you're capable of holding abundance. Without that belief, Jupiter's gifts slip through your fingers. With it, doors open where you thought there were only walls. The universe does not measure worthiness the way humans do, with money, status, or titles. Worthiness is an inner alignment. When you carry yourself with quiet dignity, with compassion for yourself as much as for others, you emit a signal: I am ready. I am open. I am enough. Life responds accordingly. So remember, what you receive is often a reflection of what you believe. When you believe you deserve joy, love, and freedom, the path begins to align with that conviction. Shift the story you tell yourself, and you shift the reality around you. Calmness is a manifestation in itself. We live in a culture that glorifies the hustle, louder voices, faster moves, constant striving. But in Buddhism, calmness is not weakness. It is power. It is the soil where wisdom grows, where the right action naturally rises. The Buddha often sat in silence under the Bodhi tree, not because he was doing nothing, but because in stillness he was aligning with truth itself. Astrology echoes this. The moon, ruler of our emotions, shows us the cycles of calm and turbulence. When the moon is full, energy spills everywhere, bright, restless, buzzing. But in the days after, as the moon wanes, quiet returns. That lunar calm isn't passive, it's restorative. It prepares the ground for the next cycle of growth, just as farmers let their fields rest after harvest. The cosmos teaches that rest and calmness are themselves acts of creation. There's a Buddhist parable. A warrior came to a monk, asking how to win every battle. The monk handed him a bowl of water and said, "Look." The warrior peered in, but the water was shaking, disturbed by his own breath. "I see nothing." The monk then asked him to wait. When the water stilled, his reflection appeared clearly. The monk said, "In calmness, you see the truth. Only then can you act wisely." Even folk stories remind us, the shepherd who walks slowly with his flock keeps them safe, while the one who rushes ahead loses them on the path. Calmness doesn't delay the journey, it ensures we arrive whole. Here's a simple practice. Choose one ordinary action today: washing dishes, sipping tea, walking down your street. Instead of rushing, do it in complete calm. Notice the texture of the dish, the warmth of the tea, the rhythm of your steps. That small shift turns routine into meditation, and you begin to embody calmness as a living frequency. Astrologers often say that when Neptune is active, illusions swirl. The antidote isn't frantic analysis, it's calm discernment. Calmness pierces through confusion the way a still lake reflects the moon. It aligns us with clarity when everything else feels foggy. Calmness, then, is not inaction. It is right action born from clarity. It is saying, "I don't need to force, because the universe is already moving with me." It is a vibration that tells life, "I am ready to receive without fear. I am steady enough to hold the blessing." So remember, calmness is not what you reach for after everything is solved. It is the very energy that solves. When you are calm, you attract, not because you chase, but because you have become a safe harbor for what is meant for you. Letting go makes space for miracles. In Buddhism, one of the deepest truths is that attachment is the root of suffering. When we cling, whether to a relationship, an outcome, or even an identity, we build a prison with our own hands. The harder we grip, the less space life has to move. But the moment we release, the universe rushes in with possibilities we could never have imagined. Astrology reflects this through Pluto, the planet of transformation. Pluto asks us to release what's dead, what no longer serves. It strips away what we cling to, sometimes painfully, but only so we can be reborn stronger. People fear Pluto transits because they mean loss. But in truth, they are sacred openings. The endings are the soil where miracles take root. There's a Buddhist story of a man who carried a heavy sack of sand on his back everywhere he went. When asked why, he said, "This is the past I cannot release." Exhausted, he could hardly walk. A monk told him, "Set it down, and you will see the road open." When he finally dropped the sack, he felt lighter than he had in years. The miracle wasn't that the world changed, it was that he freed himself to meet it. Even folk tales echo this wisdom. Remember the story of the fisherman who clutched a single small fish in his hand while the river swarmed with plenty? He refused to let go, afraid he might lose his only catch. But in clinging to the small, he lost the abundance around him. Here's a micro practice. Write down one worry or attachment weighing on you. Fold the paper, hold it in your palm, breathe deeply 3 times, and whisper, "I allow life to open the way." Then place it aside. Notice the relief that comes with surrender. Astrologers say that after an eclipse, when the skies realign, we often feel stripped bare. Yet this emptiness is the invitation for miracles. Just like a forest after fire, charred, yes, but fertile for new life. The destruction is not the end, it is the doorway. Letting go is not giving up. It is trust in motion. It is saying, "I no longer demand life to bend to my script. I believe there is a larger design at work." When we step back, the universe, God, karma, whatever name you choose, steps forward. And in that space, what we once called miracles become natural outcomes of alignment. So, when you open your hand, When you let the leaf drift into the wind, you create space, and in that space, life has room to surprise you with rainbows after the storm. Remember, calmness is not giving up. It's creating space for the right conditions to blossom. When you stop chasing, what you truly need begins to find its way to you. History has shown us this. Gandhi's quiet resistance moved an empire. Not through force, but through the calm strength of patience. In America, Martin Luther King Jr. carried the same truth. His calm determination ignited change louder than any shout of anger could. Astrology whispers it too. After every eclipse, the sky feels stripped and empty. But it is in that emptiness that new alignments form, reshaping destinies. The darkness isn't an ending, it's the canvas where the universe paints new light. Buddhism teaches us the same through simple practice. The lotus never rushes to bloom, it opens when the sun is ready. And so do we. Take one deep breath with me now. Inhale the stillness, exhale the struggle. Trust that everything unfolding in your life is guided by a larger rhythm. If today's message has brought you even a moment of peace, share it, subscribe, and join us here on Dharma Veins. May you always find stillness in the chaos, trust in divine timing, and the quiet courage to let life unfold.